Hello, everybody, and welcome to another week in NACS. This week in NACS is here to tell the stories of our scene, spotlighting the players, teams, and tournaments that make North American Counter-Strike special week by week. This week, we have a lot to cover. We've got more updates from our girls in the Impact League, which is coming to a resolution quite soon. Major tests for the new Faze and Liquid rosters, and ESL Cup 3 coming to a very strange and a little bit surprising conclusion. So grab your coffee, buckle up, and let's talk Counter-Strike. Alright, so let me get this pulled up over here. Let's go start. Alright. So let's start with our NA chaotic masterpiece, the ESL Cup 3. So the first thing to note here is probably talk of the town is you'll see that Marsborn, who we had been talking quite a bit about, dropped out of the tournament. You can see when there's a 1-0 here, that is how they log a forfeit. So Marsborn forfeiting here. Yeah, not ideal. They forfeited both of their matches in the upper bracket semifinal there and the lower bracket semifinal. I did a little bit of digging around. It wasn't easy, but it sounds like there were problems with some of the players being unavailable and out of town, mainly their IGL and opener 60, which I guess led to them being unable to compete in the tournament. I don't fully understand what happened here, but suffice to say, outside of some sort of family emergency, it's which it doesn't appear that there was. This is definitely a bad look for the team and kind of brings into question their professionalism and reliability on being taken seriously. So there's definitely something in the water going on over at Marsborn. Hopefully this is just a blip in their story and next week we've all forgotten about it and they're back to rising up the ranks, but definitely a bit of a strange situation going on with them. I know we were looking forward to a lot of these matches. They were able to take down Wildcard here, as I predicted, but it just didn't go anywhere. Very, very unfortunate. But I do want to jump to our other semifinal match, which was Skinrave versus Getting Info. This was a great game, and Skinrave came out on top, which I will be honest, I did not think was going to happen. These teams recently moved some players around, notably Marky, the star opener of Getting Info, moved over to Skinrave, was replaced by Carson. This could be viewed as an upgrade in both directions, but the role swaps being 1-for-1 leaves a pretty clear question of who's getting the upgrade here. And as we can see, the answer was resoundingly Skinrave. The first two maps went back and forth and it felt kind of close, but Overpass was an absolute domination that actually ended with Getting Info winning 0 rounds and forfeiting the match. Not pretty. It was a stomp of stomps. This was a huge win for Skinrave and Marky and set them up very well for the rest of the tournament. Even if we're just looking at their numbers here, we can see Marky outperforming Carson by quite a bit. And once again, these are both good teams. They're very closely ranked right now. But if they're giving us this matchup, we should feed into it. You know what I'm saying? Moving along to the grand final, this was Skinrave versus Wildcard. Great matchup. I was kind of hoping for Skinrave versus Marsborn, but you know what happened there. Taking a look at this, map 1 was on Overpass, and it did not go Wildcard's way. Overpass, a 13-5 victory for Wildcard there. Woof. Peeping especially really continued to struggle on overpass. He's not doing great in his more supportive roles on this roster, putting up a .44 rating across the T and CT sides of overpass. Jabo was really the only one looking locked in for wildcard, and the unfortunate trend continued where there's sort of just this issue for wildcard where if Fuzi isn't carrying on the op, then the team isn't winning. Moving on to map 2, things started to get a little more interesting. Wildcard very rarely plays Mirage, which was the second map, so I was kind of thinking that when it went to Mirage, this was going to be a clean 2-0 for Skinrave, but boy was I wrong. I don't know if this was a beginner's luck situation or not, but Wildcard put on a show on Mirage. Everyone turned up on this roster, but it's a really Fiku who absolutely led the charge here for a dominant win on Mirage, 13-2, which is crazy, even more dominant than the overpass performance just the round before. This tied things up and took us to our final map of Inferno, where unfortunately Wildcard just couldn't get the win. It was a very close affair, back and forth. Ended 16-13 in Skinrave's favor in overtime off of a dominant performance from Skinrave's closer and support duo of Welko and Laxi, who just absolutely dominated the A-bomb site on both halves of the map. Welko especially, I would like to highlight, he was finding so much impact in space on his rotates on defense and his lurks on offense. He had plays where he was just feeling the timing all the way deep in A site when the team was feeling a B hit coming, and he was awesome. With that in mind, I have to just go ahead and give the Safe Plant MVP award for the ESL tournament to Welko. Even though he struggled a bit earlier in the tournament, he came alive when it mattered, and that's what we need out of these players. I would like to give a special shout out to runner-ups Fuzi and Fiku, who do remain a bright spot for Wildcard, and Grizz on Marsborn, who looked really, really sharp in his supportive roles as usual. I am a big Grizz fan. Bottom line, this was a good tournament, and it was a well-deserved statement win for Skinrave. I hope we see them continue to grow and climb up the region, maybe even making some international events. But while we're here, I think it's worth taking a minute to talk about how do we fix Wildcard. Wildcard is in a tough spot. There's management issues, there's player issues. We're going to focus on the player issues because the management issues are hard for us to really dissect. And over the last couple of weeks, it has been... Here, let me pull Wildcard up specifically for everybody following along. All right. This is what we're working with. We've got Stanislaw, the IGL. He has been struggling to put up numbers, but his experience and his calls are looking good. We've got Fuzi, the Opper. No complaints. Fiku has really been coming into his own. Jaba. And then, of course, you know, we got Peeping over here. Let's take a little look at our boy here. This is Peeping stats over the last 1 month. Peeping is not working out on this roster as an extremity player. I was hype on Peeping coming in to this roster, but it's just not working out. It certainly isn't working on the extremities, and it doesn't really make sense to move him into Fiku's positions or anything like that. I don't think Peeping is working here. We need on Wildcard a strong closer who can hold down an extremity but also find impact as a solo player when needed and put up resistance when pushed. A strong lurker. Now, Wildcard is a higher ranked team in NA, so there are a lot of options. You know, they are, even though they're struggling, they are a higher seed with more VRS points, and people will want to be pulled up into that roster, which leaves them a lot of options. So to speak, if I was to speak my mind and make my call, My nomination would be for Shane or Fruit Cup to come up into this roster. I think both of these players have showed major potential in calm demeanor, good poise. They've been grinding in the scene and would be a flat, instant improvement in the role while also learning and growing from working with Stanislaw in a bigger team. I'd also love to hear any ideas that you guys have about players that would work in Beeping's place down in the comments if anybody is watching and has an opinion about that. I think this is a pretty clear upgrade that we could swing. Peeping for someone like Shane, right? We've got Shane over here. Very similar positions and roles, but much stronger performances. Right, Shane coming up from Boca, which is the Getting Info roster. They've recently, I think, going through a name change. We're going to keep calling them Getting Info for now, just as this tournament resolves. We'll switch to the new nomenclature on the next stream. And then we've got my boy Fruit Cup, who is one of my favorite players and has been doing quite well. Okay, actually, he's been struggling a bit, but still major upgrade over Peeping. I think Shane or Fruit Cup would be great in this position. All right, so next up, I would like to talk about our girls over in ESL Impact. Let's get that going. So ESL Impact continues. It actually resolves this week, but ESL has continued this week. Yeah, just gonna move you over there, pal. So got our big guys over here. Shimmer and Flyquest remain undefeated as the tournament progresses. Shimmer yeah. Shimmer swiftly defeated Waves Gaming with a 2-0 victory last week over staple maps Ancient and Mirage with another 1.7 plus rating. Absolute domination from their star opener Empathy, while Flyquest Red really leveled up and laid a thorough and undeniable victory over the quite formidable Nocturnal 2-0. I was a little surprised. I thought Nocturnal would pick up a map in this game, but they did not. Vanessa really came alive on train, and overall the whole team just really showed up, and that's the thing that makes Flyquest Red so scary in this tournament, is that every player from Goose Breeder to Marie has the potential to really get into a groove and take over a game, which gives them a consistency and stylistic imprint that I think a lot of other Impact teams are still looking to find. Elsewhere in Impact, we had Lotus versus Ghost Gaming. I named this as my match to watch in Impact for last week, and I am sad to report that Ghost Gaming couldn't pull out the win. As I mentioned, Ghost is quickly becoming my favorite team to watch, but Lotus started off with a dominant win on Ancients, followed by Ghost clawing back on Overpass, which took us to Dust 2, where Lotus once again put their foot down and sort of just smashed Ghost into the ground here. Oddly enough, every single map in this, right? Let's take a look over here. Yeah, every single map in this was a 13-4 win. So Lotus won Ancient 13-4, Ghost won Overpass 13-4, and then Lotus won Dust 2 13-4. Pretty interesting stuff. If you have some sort of lucky number things, you got some sort of lottery going on, something like that, and you're a Lotus fan, go with 13-4. You know, just a hunch here. I think we might have some lucky numbers coming. Nonetheless, still a Ghost fan. We're still rooting for them. This isn't going to be their tournament, but they are still a team to watch as they climb up in Impact. Bottom line, Impact is heating up as we prepare for the international segment of this tournament, with this phase coming to an end, I believe, in 4 days. Flyquest Red and Shimmer continued their reign of terror with Empathy looking like an absolute star as she just rips these other teams to pieces. There are some exciting games to keep an eye on in Impact coming over the next couple of days, but the standout for next week is 100% going to be the head-to-head clash of our Titans. The undefeated Shimmer versus the undefeated Flyquest Red will be happening this Friday at 7:30 p.m. You can check that out on HLTV. I will drop some more info about that later in the episode, but that is the match to watch. I mean, that's what we want. My prediction. Now, I think if you're just looking on paper here, right? You're just kind of looking around and following along. It's Shimmer, right? They're higher ranked seed. I think Shimmer is what most people would say for who is going to win. They have a bigger round differential, blah blah blah. But I'm going Flyquest Red here. I think Flyquest is on an upward trajectory. I think they're going to peak at the right time, and I think Flyquest Red is going to take down Shimmer in this final performance. We'll see. Tune in next week and we'll find out. That is going to be quite exciting. All right, so moving along, let's take a look at our Tier 1 representation. There is a lot to talk about there. I'm going to pull this up. Impact, thank you for stopping by. CS Asia, your time is up. So, a lot to talk about here. 2 of our 3 Tier 1 reps were in this tournament, Liquid and Faze, both fighting. Let's start this off by talking about the full debut of this new Faze roster. It was disappointing, but also promising and a little bit confusing. Classic Faze, I guess. We started off by getting immediately sent to the lower bracket by Foot, a team that we should definitely be beating. But once we were in the lower bracket, we put up impressive numbers and victories over B8 and Tyloo, both teams that are considerably scarier than Foot, right? So, and this is a best of 1, but because of this, later in the tournament, losing to Foot again, we really can't use that as an excuse. It's just Faze shenanigans. So we lose to Foot. Here we go down and we take down B8 in a great map. Twists, our GOAT, continuing to absolutely pop off. Even the one map we drop, we only barely drop. This is great. If this is what Faze is doing right now, this win over B8 and locking in this type of thing, being this much better than B8, that is a good spot for us to be right now. That brought us to the next round of the lower semifinals where we faced Tyloo, right? Another highly ranked team. And same thing, if this is where we are versus Tyloo right now, we're happy, we're chilling. And that takes us to the lower final where we lose to Foot again. It's close, but it's a loss to Foot, and unfortunately, despite being one of the highest ranked teams in this tournament, we don't make the playoffs. So the net result is still disappointing. We really want to make the playoffs there. We came close, but we didn't make it. It wasn't all bad. Twist, Brokey, and Frozen continued to look like they're in good form. Jacob got moved to a lot of supportive roles, which I was a little surprised about. Rain leaves the roster, right? Rain himself has had he's a very flexible player. What I thought was going to happen was we have Twist and Frozen. There's a lot of overlap between these 2 players. Initially, Frozen was brought in to replace Twist in Faze. My hope was that we have 2 of, if not the 2 best extremity players and lurkers in the world, right? One of them goes to a little bit more supportive of positions, or they split the supportive duties depending on the map, and the other stays a rotator closer kind of fragger. Jacob stays in the opener position and continues to develop, and Kerrigan maybe takes off some of those anchor spots from Frozen, or maybe even moves to more rotator type positions where he can call a little bit better on the CT side. He's not just sitting at a site alone anchoring and relying on the other people's calling. But Twist is a great secondary caller, so he could. There were a lot of options. What they're actually doing is putting Jacob just kind of directly into a lot of Rain's positions where he's more supportive, which I don't really think is the move for Jacob, and he's not doing well in them. This is the first tournament. I don't think they need to change it yet. But Jacob's certainly struggling in these Magics type positions and these in Rain's old spots and these pure support and then entry on attack spots. The veterans are farming and he's really struggling. I would like to see him a little more in the action and some work being put into developing him in those hotspot action positions. Doesn't need to be immediate. I just don't want to see him shelved into an anchor to make space for Twists and Frozen to stat farm. You know, they are great players. I want them to be put in good spots, but we also need to be thinking about the future, and we need to be thinking about how we're going to take down some of these better teams where we need an aggressive player. And I think Jacob is that answer. Bottom line, Faze needs more time to grow. It is a little bit early, but I would like to see some concrete structure and plans come out of their games, even if they aren't yet at their full power. Next up, I would like to talk about Liquid in this same tournament. So Liquid, a little more optimistic looking here. Liquid came in, took down Gamer Legion, best of 1, 13-9, whooped MIBR. That's kind of a layup for them, but notably in the upper final, they dropped Legacy 2-1. Legacy would go on to win this tournament. I know they are ranked higher. Nonetheless, form-wise for this tournament, Legacy's number 1. So this is great, and it was a pretty thorough whooping. Naf has really, we talked about this last time, but Naf and Nerds have really had opportunities to come alive in these extremity positions. Elige takes so much space as an opener and fragger and visionary. In Faze, that was getting in the way of their performance, but in Liquid, it's because Naf and Nerds want these more passive extremity plays, the space that Elige is taking up isn't suffocating like it was in Faze. It's actually creating more space for the rest of the team to have opportunities to shine. That is how I see it. And I think it's going very, very well. Sadly, after this run, they were eliminated in the semifinals of the playoffs by 3D Max. But it's still looking good, big picture. The main thing we need from Liquid after this is to not tilt and do anything radical, but to just continue to grow. I think this Twist Elige swap that happened between Liquid and Faze is better for everybody, and as general NACS fans, that's what we want. Faze got their secondary caller in strong firepower with someone who knows their system and lightens the load for Kerrigan, while Liquid got the vision and aggression of a star who can make space for the rest of their team mentally and mechanically. As long as both these teams continue to grow with a positive attitude and not get frustrated at these early roadblocks, I think this is a huge boost to NACS. Bottom line, that's a thumbs up from me. Before we wrap and go into weeks ahead, I do want to take a quick look at the Dust 2 US Eagle Masters 4 tournament. Now, this bad boy, get her pulled up here, is still in the group stage, right? Things are going as planned in the group stage, but a little slowly. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of this tournament's pacing. I understand it gives time to prepare and helps in the busy month, making sure everyone can play and prepare, but it's slow. I'm used to these formats where everyone plays and you go into the 3-1 bracket, etc., etc., to happen a little quicker with multiple games a day, and I think that works well in the format. This has been very drawn out, and they're not great at announcing when the next games are either, which has been a little bit disappointing for me. Nonetheless, your top 4 teams here are all likely to qualify for the playoff stage. Those are Marsborn, Boss, Getting Info, and Lag, all in the 2-0 undefeated bracket here. Keep in mind, Getting Info has just done a name change to VOC, from what I can tell. VOC, I don't have any info on that, but they have. So if you see VOC popping up in the future games, that is just Getting Info. There's no roster change or anything. It's just a branding thing. We don't know the matches yet or who is going to play who in that bracket, so there's not too much to report on or look forward to other than to keep your eyes on this tournament. Despite it being a little slow and disorganized, the teams participating are still exciting teams to watch, and we are going to learn about the scene from seeing the outcome of these matches. So stay tuned. Keep your eye on the Dust 2 tournament, turn your notifications on, and hopefully they will get around to announcing the matches soon, and we will revisit this tournament next week. Taking a look at the week ahead, keep your eyes peeled as Liquid is going to be getting going in the PGL Masters Bucharest tournament on the 26th. Additionally, as we just said, the Dust US Masters is going to heat up a little bit and be getting into the playoffs where the pace and schedule should pick up and become clear. Over in the Impact League, we have the biggest clash yet between the Titans of Flyquest Red and Shimmer. This is going to be my game to watch. It is this Friday at 7:30 p.m. Let's see who's top of the Impact League. Let's get it going. I want to see a winner. Also, ESL Cup 4, which is the final cup for the ESL NA Glory, gets started on the 23rd in 2 days to decide the last of our NA finals and figure out who from NA is going to qualify for the Pro League next year. That's pretty huge. These ESL Cups can seem like a lot, but they really, really matter to the teams participating, as this is a direct line to EPL, a Tier 1 tournament. That's what's next for NACS. Let's keep the energy high, keep the scene going, and always remember to stay safe and stay planted. See you next week, y'all. Thanks for stopping by.